Welcome to the Deep Dive. Today, we're taking a closer look at a specific piece of source material you've shared with us. It's a personal statement, maybe a message, from someone identifying as Muhammad Abdullah Hussein Alatas.
Also known as Amrelyon.
Right, Amrelyon. And our mission, really, for this deep dive is just to unpack the core message of this text.
Exactly.
Understand his perspective as presented here, and pull out the key points for you. We're not bringing in anything from outside.
No outside info. We're sticking purely to this document, and it covers quite a bit, themes of personal mission, his intentions.
Challenges he says he faced.
Right, and claims about divine will, even a specific call to action for you, the reader.
Yeah, and maybe most notably, these statements later on about mission completion and some specific grievances, too.
It's all in there.
Okay, let's unpack this then. We should probably start where the document does with the author's identity and what he says is his core mission.
Okay, so the text identifies him, as you said, Muhammad Abdullah Hussein Alatas, or Amrelyon. And his main mission, as he describes it right here in the text, is promoting justice and ease of living.
Justice and ease of living. And he roots this, he says, in sincerity and faith.
Mm-hmm.
What's quite striking is how he deals with the idea of personal gain, sort of head on.
Yeah, he does. He explicitly states the only personal gain he's after is, and this is a quote, from God alone.
Okay.
So his actions, according to this text, are purely about fulfilling responsibilities given to him and living by principles like righteousness, compassion, service. He's very clear about framing it that way.
And tied into that, the document brings up this idea of him potentially being recognized as the guided one. How does the text position that?
Well, it's stated very directly. That kind of recognition, he says, is a matter of divine will beyond human decision.
So completely out of anyone else's hands, according to him.
Yeah. According to the text, yes. It puts the validation, outside human judgment. He says his own focus stays on just pursuing his mission, diligently, sincerely. That's the priority stated here.
It's interesting how he connects that big potential role back to the very practical work justice, ease of living, while saying the validation isn't up to people.
It is. It's a clear line he draws in the sand, so to speak, within the document. And beyond the mission itself, the text also goes into the challenges, the things he says he's faced over the years.
Right. He mentions things like isolation, being misunderstood.
Emotional challenges, too.
Yeah. And he says these hardships actually had an effect.
A positive one in his telling. He says each test strengthened his resilience, his resolve.
So his perspective, as written here, is that you accept these things with patience.
Pretty much. Based on this belief that, big missions often demand you endure difficult stuff.
Okay, but here's where it adds, I think, a really human dimension. Even with this grand mission talk and enduring trials, there's this bit called a humble request.
Yes, that stands out. He asks for his humanity to be recognized.
His humanity? How so?
Well, he explicitly says his emotions, his relationships, his personal well-being, they're all integral. They're necessary for him to actually fulfill his mission effectively.
Wow. So you have this almost cosmic scale task presented side by side with a very down-to-earth need for personal understanding.
Exactly. It's quite a juxtaposition within the text itself, a really notable one.
It really is. Okay, so after laying out the mission, the challenges, the human side, the text then pivots, right?
Yeah.
It speaks directly to the reader.
That's right. There's a section titled Call to Action.
And who's he addressing?
He addresses you, which seems to mean the reader, or maybe the listener in our case, and says, the time approaches to determine the next steps.
Okay, determining next steps. And he asks for specific actions from you.
3 specific things, yeah. First, he asks you to evaluate intentions. Meaning, consider not just his actions, but also his sincere intentions, as he's described them earlier in the text. Look deeper, essentially.
Okay, evaluate intentions. What's second?
Second, foster dialogue. He emphasizes understanding, building bridges.
Rather than just watching.
Right, rather than what the text calls mere observation. He wants active engagement, it seems.
Got it. And the third action?
The third is about a shared vision. He asks you to work together towards this world of justice, harmony, ease of living. Guided
by faith and purpose, as he mentioned earlier.
Exactly. So it's not just him stating his case, it's him proposing a very specific way for the reader to interact with him and this whole vision.
A clear framework for engagement. Okay. And then right after this call to action, the document makes, a really significant claim. It kind of shifts things.
It really does. The text flat out asserts that his mission, this mission of spreading justice and ease of living globally,
Yes.
is completed.
Completed, just like that. How does he justify that claim within the text?
He explains how by pointing to 3 specific things he says he published.
Okay, what are they?
According to the document, the mission is done because, 1, he published the Justice and Governance Project idea of alnus.org.
Alnus.org, okay.
2, he published the Advice the Higher Law book.
A book of advice.
And 3, he published the Economic System to make the economy more fair and make people life easier in AKRMA.com.
AKRMNA.com.
So wait, the document is essentially saying that publishing these 3 items, an idea, a book, an economic system proposal online, equates to the completion of the entire global mission.
That is precisely the connection made in the text, yes. The publication is presented as the completion.
Wow, okay. And based on that claimed completion, what does he conclude?
His conclusion, as stated, is, so now I can do whatever I want to do now without harm. Even if I die, I'll get rewarded for it as God's promise.
So freedom to act based on the mission being finished with a guarantee of reward.
That's the implication drawn in the statement.
Yeah.
He does add, almost as a side note, that he desires to finish my work, of course, and see it reality.
Yeah. But then immediately follows up by reiterating, what I've done is already enough to make it a reality.
So the foundation is laid, the mission complete via publication, even if he'd like to see it fully built out.
That seems to be the idea presented. And because of this completion, the text mentions his future focus might shift. He says, so I might focus on my family now.
Right. So completing the global mission through publishing allows for a potential shift to personal family life. That's quite a transition in the text.
It is. And the text takes another distinct turn after this. It moves into some more direct, maybe even confrontational statements.
Okay, and this is where we need to be really careful, right? Just report what the source document says.
Absolutely. It's crucial we stick strictly to the content provided, just conveying the ideas in this text. No commentary, no endorsement from us.
Agreed. So according to the document itself, what does it say here?
Well, the author makes an accusation towards you, and the text seems to interpret you here as the government.
And the accusation is?
Accusing them of just spying. That's the phrase used.
It's just spying. Okay. And in that same part of the text?
Right. In that context, yes, the document states a very immediate personal need. It says he need money to get married and build a family and take care of them.
So the spying accusation alongside a personal financial need for family.
Correct. And the document then circles back to his identity claim. It says he has showed you that I'm the guided one.
And how does the text say he showed this?
It lists the methods stated as proof from the religious texts, God words, and his prophet and my work. So scripture and his own published works.
Okay. Then there's another accusation mentioned in the outline.
Yes. The text includes the statement directed at you. You call me mentally ill to hide behind it.
Accusing them of using a mental illness label as a way to dismiss him.
That's what the statement explicitly claims, yes.
And this whole section concludes with
a warning, again directed at you. Know that God is watching, fear him. A direct invocation of divine observation and judgment.
So this latter part of the document really layers in these elements of perceived conflict, very specific personal needs, and these strong assertions about identity and divine warning.
It definitely adds complexity to the overall picture presented in the text. And there's one final claim right at the end. The document asserts that everything the world needs can be found either on AKRMNA.org or my YouTube at Amrelyon.
So, pointing back to his published works and online presence as the complete resource.
That's the final assertion made in this particular statement.
Okay. Well, that seems to bring us pretty much to the end of this deep dive into the statement from Muhammad Abdullah Hussein Alatas Amrelyon. We've tried to navigate, his stated mission, the intentions he lays out, the challenges, that call to action.
And then the really significant claim of mission completion based on those published works.
Right. And finally, those specific grievances and claims towards the you he addresses, all based only on what's inside this document.
Yeah, our aim was just to give you a clear, concise rundown of the points he wanted to get across in this specific text, pulling out the key details, the interesting juxtapositions, without adding our own interpretations.
Hopefully this deep dive has helped you get a quick handle on the essence of this particular source material. Before we wrap up, though, maybe something to ponder, drawing just from the text we looked at today.
Okay. How about this? The author makes this very clear assertion, right, that his global mission justice, ease of living, it's completed. done, achieved by publishing those specific works.
Yet, in the same document.
Exactly. Yet he also states a personal, immediate need for money to get married and start a family, and expresses a desire or maybe a possibility of focusing on them now.
So the question to think about is,
What does this document itself suggest about the relationship, or maybe the tension, between declaring a huge world-impacting mission fulfilled through publication, and then navigating the ongoing, very real, immediate personal circumstances and needs that still exist?
yeah, how does one square the completion of the grand project with the continuation of personal life and its demands, as presented here?
Something to think about.
Definitely something to think about.
Thanks for joining us for this deep dive.